Hey guys, welcome to It Was All a Dram News and Views, episode 2. Stay tuned. So, our first story comes from Johnny Walker. The brand wants to capture bourbon drinkers, so they're releasing a new Johnny Walker Black Cask. It's aged exclusively in ex bourbon barrels and finished in heavily charred American oak. Bottled at 43%, it's going to be $35 a bottle. They say it cranks up the sweetness, vanilla cream, and dials back a little bit of the signature smoke from the Johnny Walker Black label. Um, I would say if you want to catch bourbon drinkers, 46% is probably better, but $35 a bottle is not a bad start. Going to the other side of the pond, the Virginia Distilling Company is releasing 8 new single malts in the UK market. They're being released under 2 brands. So one brand is Virginia Distilling Company. The second brand is Courage and Conviction, and each have 4 offerings. Virginia Distilling Company focuses on secondary maturation, and Courage and Conviction focuses on primary maturation. The Virginia Distillery Company offerings will be bottled at 46.5%, and they're going to cost around £50 or so. They'll have Port Cask, Blue Ridge, which is, I believe, American oak from the Blue Ridge Mountains, Cabernet Cask, and Cider Cask. For the Courage and Conviction line, it'll be bottled at 46%. Those offerings will cost £64, £65, $64.95. And they'll have Signature, Bourbon Cask, Cuvée Cask, and Sherry Cask. So, all bottled without coloring, all non-chill filtered. I think this is a fantastic, attempt to knock on the door. It's actually single malt, 100% barley, distilled in traditional Scottish methods from America. So it's not bourbon. I think it's great, to be honest. Next story is a sort of crossover that we have happening, and that's Starward Whisky from Australia doing a collaboration with Lagavulin from Isla. So it's Starward Whiskey finished in Lagavulin casks. Sounds good to me. I'd be very interested to try it. I think it's about 125 US for that offering. I don't know. I'm interested. Our next story comes from the Macallan. They're repackaging their Timeless series. So this is double cask and sherry oak, 12, 15, and 18-year-olds. They're repackaging it. I'll be honest, if you look at the packaging, it looks a lot like gift wrapping. The bottle still looks, regal. They got the sort of bold lettering. It's probably a winner, but I just don't care much about what the Macallan does. I'm not really looking out for it. And our final story of the day comes from Penderyn Welsh Distillery. They're releasing a 25-year-old, their first ever 25-year-old single malt. So they're, finally they opened in 2000, I believe. And so, 26 years later, they're releasing their first ever fully aged, premium single malt. It's going to cost £1,200 for the first number one cask, number one edition of it. I am not an investment advisor. I am not a crystal ball whiskey guy, but I would say that's probably going to be worth more than £1,200 in 5, 10, 15 years because it's a historic release, and frankly, I think Penderyn is moving in the right direction. So I don't see them going anywhere anytime soon. And that brings us to our opinion section of the show. So in light of this news of the 25-year-old release from Penderyn, I want to talk about age-stated versus non-age-stated whiskeys. Now, age-stated whiskeys obviously have the appeal of, the regalness, the stamp of approval, basically a safety net in terms of cost, right? Because, whether or not it's your favorite whiskey, you have a objective reason why it costs what it costs, right? Like if it's 18, 20, 25 years old, number one, there's a rarity factor. Number two, angels share, right? So a lot of it just disappears, and there's less whiskey after 20 years than there was after 10. So it's going to cost more money. Having said that, we're all aware that age does not necessarily mean it's going to be better whiskey. Definitely doesn't mean it's going to taste better. Doesn't even mean it's going to be better quality. But I digress. So historically, an age statement was the selling point of a whiskey. There was 12-year-old, 18-year-old, 21-year-old. This was the core ranges of most whiskeys. Over the past 2 decades or so, there was a period of time where demand outweighed supply. And because of that, it caused distilleries to, try and up production in order to meet demand. So you started seeing younger whiskeys, right? So you started seeing 8-year whiskeys, 5-year whiskeys being released. And what that did was, number one, it allowed them to release whiskey quicker. But number two, it allowed more flexibility because you weren't constrained by age and you could chase a flavor profile more, effectively, efficiently. It allowed for more creativity, and it also allowed, because you don't have the constraints, it allows for more consistency across year to year. So in addition to lower age statement whiskeys, you had no age statement whiskeys. Now this doesn't necessarily mean it's all young whiskey, right? It could be all young, it could be old. It just means that they're not going to hold it to a standard. It's not going to be constrained. So if last year they were all 18 years or older, this year it might be 16, but we're not going to put a number on it. Now, this as a consumer, obviously you lose the safety net of the, my price is attached a little bit to this age. So you lose a little bit of that safety net. But at the end of the day, what you want is the best tasting whiskey, right? So whether it says 18 years old or it doesn't say 18 years old, if it's the whiskey you like, it's the whiskey you like. It seems logical that the consumer would assume no age statement is going to be a dip in quality of the whiskey. No age statement means there's going to be young whiskeys in there, etc., etc. However, you can see by the explosion of non-age statement whiskeys that there's whiskeys at all price points. So it's not just we want to sneak in at the entry level, so we put out a cheap whiskey because it's not aged. It really is, we are putting out a whiskey that we want to market in a specific way. So having said that, I'm going to now introduce you to 3 non-age statement whiskeys at somewhat different marketing price points that I think are really good. All right. So the first one we have is Glen Scotia Double Cask. All right. Now that is going to be your entry level Campbelltown whiskey. You could get this for $80 at the LCBO. It's cheaper than the Glen Scotia 10-year-old. It's very good whiskey, but yes, it's designed to be, bottom level, get you in there. This is the cheapest one you're probably going to find, right? No age statement being used to get in the entry level whiskey. The second non-age statement whiskey I have is Arran Quarter Cask, the Bothy. Now this one is a little bit more expensive than the Arran 10. So I think Arran 10 is like $80 at the LCBO. This is $90 at the LCBO. But this is bottled at cask strength, 56.2%. So it's really more of a bang for buck thing, right? It's not bottom shelf. It's not going to be the cheapest one. They're still trying to hit you with bang for buck. And I think they do a very good job of that. And finally, my third non-age statement whiskey is Ardbeg Uigeadail. Now, Ardbeg has a lot of them. There's a bunch of them. Now you're getting into more premium whiskey. This is substantially more expensive than the 5, substantially more expensive than the 10, right? So you're getting into a more premium level, but again, they're chasing a certain flavor profile. And oddly enough, if you look at this with no coloring, it is substantially darker than the 10. What that may not mean there's older whiskey necessarily, but it may mean that the casks were more active. Maybe they used quarter casks. I don't know. What I do know is there's no age statement. This cost $190 at the LCBO, and it's very fine whiskey. I don't buy it at the LCBO. When I get it overseas. I travel, and it's substantially cheaper in the UK market and even in the States, I believe. I say all that to say, at any price range, you can find really good whiskey, and it doesn't have to have an age statement. However, I get it. Without the age statement, without some sort of transparency to vouch for the reason for the price, I understand why people would be skeptical a lot of times. I also think that because, the recent trend is a dip in the demand for alcohol and whiskey in general, you may see some brands go back the other way, right? They've held back some more supply. They're aging stuff a little longer. Maybe they go the prestige route, and whiskey's expensive. So any reason to tack on another $10, they'll find it. Anyway, that's the show, guys. Hope you enjoyed it. I'm Jason. Smash the like button for me, subscribe to the channel, and leave a comment down below. Till next time, cheers.